The Roadie Show.
G'day, we're out here in beautiful Upway talking to the one and only Howierd FREEMAN. Howard,
Yeah.
for the three people in the universe who don't know your background but know your face, how did you get into the business? How did you become Howierd?
I got into the business working for my father, who was a dance promoter in 1965. I learnt drums from the age of 9, and I played in bands on Saturday nights where you play for nothing, because that's what the gig paid.
Those times are coming back.
Oh yeah, we were trendsetters then. So I was playing drums, and he made me pay for my drum kit by working on the door of the dance he was running, which was the Masonic Ballroom in Collins Street. So it was a big bands and 60-40 dancing, and I had to wear a dinner suit at 14 and a half and go and stand in Collins Street and take tickets off people. And that was the first time I saw a guy slap his wife. And at 14 and a half, I jumped on him, brought him to the ground, and then she kicked me in the ribs for assaulting her husband. Oh, this is the gig for me. That's terrific. So that was the start. It's the most pussy you've had this week. And
That's his cat.
yeah, you can tell it's up way by the country theme with the timber. How I became Howierd. I think it was the early days and around the Sherbet era in 1976.
Right.
I spoke to Roger Davies last night, who managed the Men and manages plenty of people now, and Pink and a whole lot of stuff. And he brought up that the first time that his secretary, Irene Taylor, met me, I was doing the vacuuming in a tutu when I answered the door. So I don't know, I just think if you bring some levity and some difference to the day, it's a better day.
Yeah.
Life's shitful enough, let's have a laugh.
That's right. Well, our business has always let misfits, and it's welcomed that, and that's been a great thing that it's let in. The money came later and the structure came later. Yeah. What do you think, what led you to create an organisation? Assuming you're in retirement, but you're not. What led you to start Crew Care, or did you start it? Crew Care is an org which I assume is voluntary.
Well, yeah, it's a not-for-profit organisation dedicated to live music industry professionals. There have been other entities, and there's reunion entities set up for crew that worked in 1982 and somebody else, but they don't do much. They meet every couple of years,
yeah.
and it doesn't have the future or the well-being of today's crew in mind, because the people involved have been removed from the industry for years.
Yeah.
And they remember the good days and they're celebrating that, so they get little stiffies and they go, oh, let's get together and have a beer and talk about 1982. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather punch you in the eye than do that.
Yeah.
So it's about trying to embrace and enthuse and enhance the crew of today, and give them a start and give them a grounding and give them some attitude and give them some well-being and give them some care and give them some embrace, and work hand in hand with Support Act. So if they're in trouble, we can advise Support Act, this crew guy needs help.
Yeah.
Physical, financial, mental, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're trying to develop things of dietary advice. Having accountants online that'll do your tax for 25% less.
Yep.
Having doctors there, people that understand. And with members of Crew Care doing a mental wellbeing course, you can ring someone who is one of your peers, who understands the shit you go through, to talk to you face to face, that can ground you and save you and help you and maybe affect you. If that doesn't work, we've really fucked it up.
Is that what's happening now with people that are calling you that are during this crisis where they're locked out of work?
Absolutely. You cannot and you should never ignore the phone call when somebody wants some help. And I get reasonably emotional about it because I'm on a little bit of empathy overload at the moment, because there's been a few people calling.
Yeah.
But the upside of that is that a guy that rang me last year who was in crisis completed the mental health wellbeing course, and he just dealt with his first person.
Amazing.
So the circle goes around, so it makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
And if it costs you nothing to do it, apart from 12 hours of your time, when all we've got is a bit of time right now, let's promote this fact, We put stickers on the backs of truck doors, so when you open the door, you see that you can ring a phone number to get help if you want it.
Yeah.
So there's no judgment.
That's right.
nothing. It's
Yeah.
just.
Do you
let's
think
go.
that like part of this thing of having no work, that it's also there's the financial, but it's a sense of dignity and purpose and worth. Like we defined ourselves through playing gigs, through putting shows on. Now we can't do that, and a lot of these guys, I think, they really struggle to see. All of a sudden, they take that very personally. It's like all of a sudden, well, I must be worth nothing because I can't translate those skills into a regular job. I mean, should they? I mean, that's a question I'd like to ask everyone.
All of that is correct, but I think the major part of this industry is that when you tour with people that become your family. You embrace them.
Yeah.
You live with people 24 hours a day. You don't get away from someone. In the days of sharing a room, you would see somebody 24 hours a day. The only time you wouldn't see them was when they're having a dumper in the shower and you were probably cleaning your teeth, so witnessing both events anyway. So you're missing that relationship, that interaction, there's a sense of purpose and there's well-being, and you're not providing for your family and you feel like shit and you feel unworthy and you're in crisis and all of that. But I think that sense of interacting with a member,
that's big.
That you treat as your brother or sister is a real big thing.
Yep.
And that's the headspace thing, to me.
Just hold for 2 seconds. You want the bell, Mike? It's just rubbing on your shirt, which is then rubbing on your chest here. This is when you move it.
You can. I told you I shouldn't set the mic. If it was a cymbal stand, I'm also drumming. You may or may not know.
Mine is rubbing on your chest here.
Yeah, that's something I never thought
I
I'd hear.
wrote the Ludwig when I was 9 years old, and they sent me a practice pad of snares,
wasn't
a
terrible,
pair
but
of
it was
sticks
fun
and
time.
some brushes.
Amazing.
Sent it to Australia from Germany. And I'm 9.
Do you want some more history first or anything like that? Let them go.
Good.
Yeah.
Let him go. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Let them go.
Yeah, let them go.
Well, I really liked what. Sorry.
Let's just shuffle around. Shuffle around that buddy.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to touch it. He doesn't want to touch it because of the running. I get it.
Where's Patana gone? I think I let her in.
No, I've got to.
No, the cat's fine. The cat will survive.
The cat's mother.
Oh, I've got two and they do exactly the same thing.
It's-
stand at the door, let me out.
I don't know if it's 16 or 18. It's one of those. It's survived a while.
Yeah.
You know.
And stand at the door. I'll come back.
Just give me a bit of banter just to recheck
A
levels.
little bit about it. Like,
Why would you possibly do
We don't. This man doesn't do small talk. He does. He does ultimatums, perhaps.
I don't do small lines. I don't do small. I don't do small talk. All right.
All good?
You can have that as a take.
Well, actually, yeah,
It'll be in there.
that's right.
We're going to be rolling. Yes? Yeah, okay. In 3, 2, 1.
I really liked what you said about bringing in what we do with new people that come in, because I see even in my role, I'm at 45, all of a sudden I'm old, and I know that I need to see new people come in and they need some direction and they need some structure, because we don't have, like, there's a roadie school we don't have. Do you want one? Probably not. What I want to ask you though is what would you do differently? Because, you know, have you just set up crew care to apologise for the fact that you just screamed at people to get the job done? And, you know...
It's a bit harsh.
Cut. We're just going to have a... No, I'm going to run. But what I'm trying to get at, they love to throw that word diversity around, but is part of the problems of how we feel because we didn't have women around. You can answer that how you want. Who were some of the strong women you work with coming up?
Oh, Tana was huge. You know, the first female roadie in Australia was fantastic. I think watching Kerry Paff do lighting for years was just frightening to me. You know, watching some of the women running crewing companies. You know, watching Dean and Chrissy Dimmick running their crewing company in Brisbane.
They've always been there.
It's pretty good.
They've always been there.
Yeah.
But we need to encourage that as well.
I mean, it's tough for a woman in this industry because it's been such a male-dominated, testosterone-fueled fucking you're a good bloke, let's have a drink, whoa, let's go industry, you know? So if you're in it, you're either ugly or a lesbian, you know, you couldn't be talented and pretty and smart, you know, and that's now not the case. There's a lot of really good females out there, you know. Deb Hatton, who did lights for me for years, you know. was one of the nicest people and most talented people I've met.
And I think it's important to say that we actually to take responsibility for that as blokes, to say that we want it to be more open and encouraging, and we need to talk to those women on this show, and we will be. All right, oysters?
If they turn up.
Yeah. The other thing about, I don't
What's
know.
going to attract them to the show?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, the good-looking blokes.
Well, should we do the
That's an
Roadies?
cis.
Should we do the Roadies cooking show? Now,
Good call.
good call?
Yes.
Okay, that was brought up by Dave Allpress, who said we should do the Roadies cooking show and talk about how the Russians blow up every electric jug they ever had in a hotel room by trying to boil their eggs, and how you did steamed vegetables with a hairdryer in a hair
Yep.
net. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Let's talk about those things. How to survive on the road.
That's right. I've done
Give it
a few
feminine
things in
touch.
a kettle.
Why have you got a sewing kit in your bag? You know, I mean, these are things that men have learnt to do. You know, why shouldn't women do audio and lighting?
That's right.
There you go.
Why shouldn't they? Indeed.
Why should I married one.
You married a
woman. Yeah.
A woman.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine. A model, actually.
And well, that's a good point.
Not professor, just small. To scale.
Relative size.
Yeah, to scale. She's
Yeah.
fantastic. She's a beautiful lady.
Well, how have you? I mean, one, how are you alive, and how have you maintained your relationship? Legitimate question, because it does drive touring. It does drive people apart. It's not an easy question.
I think when you do big lines, big drinks and big days, you actually have big sleeps up when you get home. So you probably survive that. It's survival is about what you come home to and the base that you have and the people that support you. So if you have a good family unit and good partner and good friends, you have people to go to outside of the business. If you're involved in the business totally and 24 hours a day and it's all you live and breathe, it's going to chew you up.
And you become a very one-dimensional, boring
Absolutely, and
fucking
you never
person.
reinvent yourself,
Yeah.
you never do anything.
Yeah.
So I think to get away from it is great. How have I survived it? I think by a little bit of reinvention over the journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been scared to scrape chewing gum off the floor of a labour arena or, you know, be a psych guy, I would dig a hole and bury a can of shit if I had to, you know,
exactly.
if it paid well. you know.
Yeah.
And the days we've stood in the dark with water up to our knees playing with steel was good. There's something going on here. I think, is this one of those things, because of COVID-19, do we have that thing going on? Is there somebody doing that? Auslan?
Oh, Auslan, yeah. Well, we're not. I don't know if we're that woke. We've got to. We're covering.
I don't even know what woke means.
No, it means
Because I was born in 1949, did I mention that before?
you did. No, you mentioned when you started was 65, but I didn't get.
70.
Yeah.
God, you're a trooper.
Not the best memory.
No.
One question I go. It's a bit of a dull, boring financial question, whatever. But in terms of like having a career which is sustainable, how are we going to that day rate, that thing which may or not contain super sick benefits and holidays? How are we going to build that into our business if the ticket price doesn't go up? I know that this may not be a question for us roadies, but we're at the. I feel like this is an existential problem here. There's a lot of good. You can also answer it like this. There's a lot of good faith from the public. How can we translate that into awareness of roadies? And I don't know. What do we
answer
do?
your first question, the ticket price has to go up. Because when we cease this adventure of isolation
Yeah.
and we regenerate with a little bit of fun in our life and a little bit of empathy and a little bit of attitude, and we can dance and we can sing and we can move and we can embrace and we can do all of that, a seat on a plane isn't going to be as cheap as it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, because they're going to be recovering costs. Every facility is going to be a little bit more expensive, I would suggest, after a little period of lull,
Yep.
where everybody's being so nice. Then they're going to like shaft you because they want their money back.
Yep.
You know, it's like putting your mortgage on hold. Great, yeah, we can get away with it, but there is going to be penetration after that with a rubber glove and a professional person taking your wallet out of your back pocket without you knowing. What was the other bit of your question?
Oh, I think you've covered it.
Hey,
And getting fisted is a pretty accurate way. But to bring it back to the roadies, like
well, there's our female demographic just wiped right there, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know, just one fisting comment and you've blown it. You know,
Well,
trying
don't slut shame me, you know.
slut shame.
It,
So common.
yeah, well, should the roadies, here am I trying to say who all the roadies are, it's not for me to say, but should we be then trying to unionise or something? You know, like, I see crew, I think it's really important, what I'm trying to say is, I think it's important that we get as many people aware of what crew care is, get them to click on, get involved, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, as cliched as having a voice is, this is a way we can get to actually build ourselves up because we're seen as something.
Absolutely. What I'm saying to people is the membership, if you've worked in the industry for 5 years, is $10
Yeah.
a year. $10? That's a couple of coffees, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A couple of coffees to have a voice. Now, the only way we're ever going to make a noise is with volume. The only way we have volume is by volume of numbers and volume of voices, because people in power will only ever look at the results of that survey or this number or that relevance.
Leverage.
So if we have 10,000 people that go, by the way, you're fucking this up, we have an idea how to fix it, 9,000 of our members suggested that maybe you could do this, we might have a chance, you know?
Yep.
I mean, we're going through things now of looking at the industry, and when this finishes, there's people out there doing, you know, the average kid who's a loader who does a bit of part-time work or a bit of full-time work, maybe on JobKeeper or JobSeeker is earning more than he would through winter anyway.
Absolutely.
Is he going to come back to work?
Yep.
So, you know, by the crewing companies around Australia doing 10-minute grabs of how to load a truck, how to hang a loading rig, how to do this, how to do some backline, how to do barrier, you know, a kid coming into the industry can look at something that's been done by all the crewing companies and all the responsible adults, and in 40 minutes go, I actually have an idea when I walk into the MCG and there's 230 of us.
Yeah.
I have no idea where I'm going or what I'm doing. I'm shitting myself.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a clue.
And that's very cool because that's how they want to access it as well. Like we all know that all the information is online on the YouTubes, but if it's all in one, if it's in a good place, it's presented in short form. It's great. I feel like hearing people like you speak, it breaks down some of the intimidatory nature, if you will. If I was a loader and I walked in on a 100-person gig, and I saw some very serious, people shouting down to get this job done in a short amount of time. Of course, I know why that is now, but if I was that kid, I might not want anything to do with that. I might want to run the opposite way. So I feel like this is opportunity, whilst the tools are down, for us to share, to be seen as a bit more human and do what you're doing.
We've got to set some behaviours. We've got to enthuse, embrace, and encourage. We have to.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility as people.
Yeah.
This industry, this technology changes so rapidly.
Yeah.
There's guys that worked in 1976 who were great at their art that wouldn't have a clue what a desk does now, or how to set up a rig, or how does that work?
Yeah.
Wireless. That's something you went to the shelf and turned like that, and 3dB came on. I was like, give me a break.
Yeah.
The shit has changed, and we've got to keep implementing people with knowledge of those changes. We've got to encourage them to do that. I'd suggest to anyone that's out of a gig now, if you have a chance, if you're a lighting guy, get a fork ticket. If you're an audio guy, check out some Backline Moves, because when this shit finishes and there's X amount of guys going for that gig and you're the last one in the queue, you might be able to go the head of the other queue and work it out. I don't know. Maybe it's time to reinvent and look after yourself. It's time to come out of this shit taller, smarter and faster instead of sadder, fatter and older.
Well, I can't get any taller, but I do feel just a little bit smarter after talking with Howierd FREEMAN. Howierd, thank you.
Okay, just live your life. Big lines, big drinks, big fun.
I remembered, are we rolling? Yeah. I remember being driven around on a buggy with you at a festival and you saying, "Get out of my way, I'm very important."
Absolutely, yeah.
Somehow it didn't get some of those punters out of the way. What is the stupidest thing you've seen a punter do, or something that comes to mind, at a festival, which is unfathomable?
Probably the most ridiculous thing was with big day out in Perth. There's a wall surrounding it near the railway station. It's probably 10 feet, 3 metres high.
Yeah.
Right, stone, old, Western Australian stone wall.
Yeah.
There's a guy standing on it trying to get in. I went, will you get down? I'm standing with a couple of people. And he went, no, you can get fucked. So I picked up half a brick and went, get down. I'm going to clock you with it. And he went, no, you won't. And the two people beside me went, oh, yes, he will. And he got down. It was fantastic. The silliest thing, I don't know, there's a million stupid things. You know, why would you get into the sewage system of an arena and come up through a manhole cover so you can go and watch a band covered in shit and you've saved the entrance fee? Why?
Every hole's a winner.
You're going to pick a nice looking chick that day, aren't you? Eh? You know, hang around the public toilets there. Even the flies won't like you. You know? Oh, hang on. That's better. Am I wearing my pad? Oh, no.
That's
It's
an incontinence. Yeah, go.
No, ministry. When I did ministry, Al Jorgensen, who was their singer, had a predilection for the delights of heroin, and he was a bit uncontrollable, but he had a whole road case full of man nappies, which was fantastic.
Wow.
So he'd do interviews and he'd just look at me and go, and I go, you are, aren't you? He'd go, of course I am. You know, so he was a cool guy, but he really blew it. He had a production manager called Curly Jobson, who was a Scottish guy, who's big, lovely geezer, wore a kilt, the full-on deal. Curly's a beautiful man. He hired a Mustang on the Gold Coast to take Al for a drive because Al was a bit strung out, so they're not taking for a drive. Al gets in the passenger seat, Curly gets in the car, they go for a drive, Curly's got him killed up. Al feels a bit seedy because he hasn't had a whack for a while, decides to throw up, thinks he's in America, goes to throw his head out the passenger side window, throws up in Curly's lap. Next thing I see is a Mustang convertible pulling up outside the hotel and a guy carrying his skirt full of his artist's spew through the foyer, not looking particularly happy. That's the joy of this gig. You get all that, you know, and you have fun as well.
You do.
No, catering, you know.
I always wondered why they brought the reptiles into catering and then everyone got sick in Perth. They had the reptiles in Adelaide and the caterers touched the snakes. And then
Well, when you say the reptiles, you don't mean Nick Barker and the reptiles. You're not going back that far. So this is just a precursor to COVID-19 about
Exactly.
eating bats. It's a perfect segue, isn't it?
opportunity.
Yeah. Well, the big day out caused the coronavirus, is what you're saying. Is that it?
I think that conspiracy needs to be, unmasked.
So was the brown acid that good, was it? Like you get those flashbacks all the time?
Yeah, it's pretty loose. It's
That's
better than
one.
the sponsor's beer, I'll tell you that.
Sponsored beer, please. You know, I invented Spillage as a production or tour manager. You get a float sheet. They give you money, and
Yep.
you go out and you buy incidental things, and you might buy the crew a drink at the end of the day. I had an accountant come up to me one day and go, "What's Spillage?" And I went, "That's when we go to the bar and I buy my crew a drink and I'm carrying triples because I'm not going to go back to the fucking bar that often, am I?" And somebody bumps me and I drop one, so I've got to go back and buy more. So Spillage became a line item in his settlements from that point on.
Oh, that's good.
That's my proudest moment.
Very effective accounting.
What else?
What others you got there?
Any gigs? You want to talk about small gigs?
Small gigs.
Small gig. Biggest gig. Well, no.
Small gig.
Yeah.
The smallest gig was Alexandra Headlands, where I rang the radio station and got, I think it was with Mojo Nixon and Dred Zeppelin, and got on the radio station. It might not have been, it could have been somebody else, but if I mentioned their name, they'd be embarrassed. Got on the radio station and offered a pot of beer and free admission to everybody that came to the gig, so the band would have somebody to play to. That was a tough one. That's the smallest gig. Biggest gig, 2SM in the 80s did shows in Sydney. They were the Catholic radio station. So we did a show with Sherbet, John Paul Young, Ted Mulry Gang, Dragon, you know, a few others on the roof of a swimming pool at Victoria Park, and there were 76,000 people there. For that era, it was unheard of. We built a temporary structure on top of a swimming pool change room roof and had 76,000 people in a paddock, and the barrier was upturned steel stillages with some ply boards wired to them so they wouldn't get crushed to death against the wall of the building.
Did that feature on GTK?
It may
saw
have,
it when I
it
was
may
a kid.
very well have featured on
I think it was
GTK.
Swampy and you with a forklift, putting stuff up on the
Yeah,
roof.
yeah,
It was doing-
yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about that was that Dragon, I think Mark Hunter said something untoward about tits, and 2SM being the Catholic radio station wouldn't pay them and started refusing to play their single and stuff. It was a weird era, you know. That's when you came a little bit twisted,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're putting action armoured vans to get them in and out of venues, because you couldn't take a car in or a vehicle because they'd just get trashed.
Incredible. Then there was the, you would have been involved in the Nirvana, when the Nirvana became quite big, you know, they got booked and then all of a sudden they're massive, and then there was like were you at Canberra University? I heard that people pushed the PA over or whatever, smashed the walls in, they tried to break in, like obviously there was things got a bit loose there. You would have been advancing the next festival, it wouldn't have been...
Yeah, it probably was. I mean, you know, there's a million things, like the old Greek Theatre in Richmond.
Yep.
We went there. I was doing Einstürzende Neubauten, which was pretty funky in itself. But we got there and the guy that owned the venue owed money, and the guy that owned the building wouldn't let the venue guy in. So Harold died at the lock, so I had to go round the back, break in through a louvered toilet window, break into the building, get a hammer, take the hinges off the doors, take the pins out of the hinges, open the doors, and then the promoter turned up going, "What do you think you're doing?" And we were like, "Mate, you know, we're doing the gig. You know, we've advertised it, we've sold the tickets, we're doing the gig." And he went, "No, you're not, you can't." And I went, "I'll give you $500. You go out and buy it, go to the cash and carry, buy as much beer as you can. You sell it, whatever price you want to do, you'll make some money." We did the gig.
That's it.
Think on your feet, you know.
Get it done.
The Roadie Show